Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. Okay, so after a couple of weeks break, we're back with the third round draw of the 30th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard Game. Um, for this round, we have 11 people left in it, so we will just quickly remind ourselves who those 11 lucky bastards are. They are Baron von Rattus, C. Collins 44, Cheeseball, D1D4K10, El Guapo, Foghorn Sam, It's Your Boy SB, Cian6, The Matchmaker, Trig, and our German alliance, Uber Industry. Uh, so those are the 11 lucky bastards left in it. And for this round, we have UFC Fight Night, Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Texiera. And this again is veteran versus prospect matchup. Really, well, there's quite a few fights on this card which match that description, to be honest. But this one's probably the most arrogant of them. Uh, it's Derek Lewis has had what 40 fights now, looking at his record, and compared to Texiera, who's still undefeated, and it's Texiera's looked good so far. They've every single fight he has had has been a first round finish. Won his UFC debut against Justin Tuffer, who, okay, let's be honest, it's a decent debut opponent, but that's not the toughest fight you can get in the UFC heavyweight division. But Derek Lewis he's been in there with everyone. Um, he's inconsistent, I give him that, and sometimes there's been fights where you kind of questioned his heart a little bit, but he's always a very entertaining fighter. Um, and he's and the thing is, he's a good one too as well because if he does land those power shots early, he can put on his day probably put anyone in the heavyweight division to sleep. And to be honest, given how much he outmatches Texier in terms of experience, I think he can do that in this one. Um, he did it against Rodrigo Nascimento in the last fight, so why not again in this one? So I've gone with a first round knockout for Derek Lewis for that one. But you're not here to listen to my nonsensical rambles. You're here to see who you're getting drawn with. And first to discover their fate for tomorrow night is Baron von Rattus. Let's see what the wheel has in store for Baron von Rattus. And he gets Mitch Ramirez. Mitch Ramirez for Baron von Rattus, which that could be better. Let's be honest. As a bit of an understatement. Looking at the odds I've scribbled down on the notes here is plus 600. Obviously a massive underdog against Mike Davis, who's 11-3 and a minus 900 favorite. Um, what chance does Ramirez have? He comes into this fight having lost his UFC debut, which wasn't a bad loss against Thiago Moises, a fighter that I do rate primarily for his grappling ability, but as it happens, he actually lost that one via leg kicks. Um, Lost his contender series fight as well, but he was 2-0 in LFA, so he's at least and he's a decent regional fighter. Just maybe not quite up to UFC caliber, but that is an unfortunate thing to say about a fighter who is fighting in the UFC. Um, Mike Davis, on the other hand, is 4-2 in the UFC, looking for a bit of a bounce back after losing against Fares Siam last time out, and this is the perfect bounce back fight for him. Let's be honest. So first round knockout for Mike Davis is what I've got there. So I think yeah, Baron Ratus is going to need a huge upset to see the fourth round. Okay, so C Collins 44 is next to face the wheel. Let's see what happens to him. Oh, nearly got. Well, there you go. There's our first head to head. I thought it was going to be Mitch Ramirez, but the wheel was given him Mike Davis. Uh, Mike Davis there for C Collins 44, and the heavy favourite up against Mitch Ramirez and Baron von Rattus. As I've just mentioned, Davis has had a good start to his UFC tenure, and I say looking to bounce back after that loss to Fares ZM last time. Um, and Mitch Ramirez is the perfect opponent for that. Um, he's only lost twice in his career so far, to be fair to Mitch Ramirez, but both of those have been knockout losses. Um, and more particularly, the his most recent of those losses was his UFC loss, which when you're trying to judge somebody as how they fare at this level, that is, yeah, it's not. I just don't think Mitch Ramirez is at the UFC level. Mike Davis is maybe not the highest level of UFC exactly, but he's definitely belongs uh, in the UFC. As our first head-to-head there, Baron Van Rattus with Mitch Ramirez versus C. Collins 44 with Mike Davis, and quite frankly, C. Collins 44 has got the much more favourable side of that draw. Okay, next is Cheeseball. Let's see if the wheel will be a little bit kinder to Cheeseball, or or depends which side you're on, but he gets Calvin Cater. Calvin Cater for Cheeseball, and been one of the best at featherweight for years, but its recent fights haven't looked great. It's currently on a four-fight losing streak. I didn't even realize it was that bad until I was looking into it. But yeah, it is a four-fight losing streak he's on now. Although to be fair to them, most of them are decision losses. It's not like he's constantly getting stopped. The only one of those that was a knockout loss was a technical knockout loss due to injury. But in an intriguing style matchup, anyways, up against Steve Garcia, who is a knockout artist, who he's just been knocking everybody out left, right, and center. Um, can he do it against someone as tough as Calvin Kattar, who, well, let's be honest, maybe it's a sort of fight I can see. Um, I can see it going the distance simply because of Garcia just well, it depends because most of his knockouts have been in the first and second round, so it makes you think: can he? What's he look like in the third round? Because he's still got that firepower in the third, because he's more of a quick starter rather than an endurance fighter. But in any case, I can definitely see him winning the first two rounds. So if it does go the distance, Garcia wins it anyway. But as it happens, I've got him to win a third round knockout, or more specifically, probably banking on technical knockout. Um, and that's more based on the complete range of strikes that Garcia has. It's not as if he's a sort of a one-trick pony or left-hand Larry or something like that. He does it through standing, through elbows, through knees, ground and pound. He's got a whole range of ways he's knocked his opponents out. Because of that, I think eventually he'll find a way of wearing down Calvin Cater. But so yeah, maybe Cheeseball could have he could have got a more desirable one, in if we're being completely honest. Okay, so we got D1, D4, K10. The guy with a name like a number plate. Uh, let's see who he ends up with. And he gets Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis there for D1, D4, K10. And that's one of the ones I'm quietly confident on. Got him to win a decision against Max Griffin. Uh, two veterans of the UFC of the fight game. it's in a way, I suppose they're in similar situations in their careers, but um, even though Curtis is also on a losing streak, he's been fighting the better fighters. He's still been fighting um, some very, very good people at welterweight. Still not quite title contenders, but still very. Um, well, I'm assuming most of the people whose ranks are still of fighting are still ranked. Not, I don't pay any attention to the official UFC rankings, but a lot of his recent opponents I'd have up there. Um, but yeah, I just think his recent resume, particularly, has just been better than Max Griffin's recent one. Um, lost a submission against Michael Chiesa um, in his last fight, and he does. Uh, and the reason I've gone for a decision anyway is because Griffin, when he does lose, he doesn't often get finished. So the Chiesa one was a little bit of an odd result. He tends to lose over the distance quite a lot, and of the ones where he has won, they've usually been split decisions that could have gone either way. So he's certainly not a fighter you would bank on getting the nod from the judges once the final horn's gone. Chris Curtis is. So that's how I see it playing out. Chris Curtis, I think this fight's going to go the distance, and Chris Curtis is a fighter that I would say is far more likely to get judges' nod, um, based on the fights where he has been forced to go the distance. But so yeah, I think D1, D4, K10. He's got a good chance of moving into the fourth rounds with this one. Okay, El Guapo is next to see who he's going to be riding with tomorrow night. And he gets Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson there for uh, El Guapo. And always a fan favourite, co-main events, and up against Gabriel Bonfim. But to be honest, Stephen Thompson's past his prime, considerably past his prime. So if I'm being honest, he's 42. He's lost four of his last five. Currently on a two-fight losing streak, but he's still fighting title contenders, and I think that's, in a way, I feel like he could probably even go on for a few more fights longer if he wasn't throwing himself against absolute killers of the welterweight division. But fair play to him. He's still taking the hard fights. He's not fighting down at all. He's still fighting the best that there are around. But does mean that he's kind of being fed a lot of prospects by the UFC. The UFC is taking advantage of him. And say, right, we've got a veteran here that's willing to fight anyone, anywhere, and the fans love that. So let's feed them to the up and coming prospects. And Gabriel Bonfim's one of those, very impressive one as well. 17-1, 2-5 win streak, and as a very dangerous submission artist from what we've seen of him so far, and only 27 years old compared to Stephen Thompson, who, as I mentioned, 42. So 15-year age gap between them. This is definitely going to be a passing of the torch moment, or another, or at least, like I say, another one where the UFC taking advantage of the fact that Stephen Thompson's a fucking badass. Is the fact that he will take anyone anywhere, anytime. He's gets a lot of unfavorable matchups because of that, and this is another example of that. So I've gone with Gabriel Bonfim, first round submission. So El Guapo, trust me, I'm really rooting for you. I'd love to see Stephen Thompson cause the upset here, but it would be exactly that, an upset. And by nature, not very likely. Okay, so Foghorn Sam is next to the mercy of the wheel. And he joins our little now makes it a 2v1, doesn't he? Um, little head to head with Mike Davis. So we have C. Collins 44 and Foghorn Sam with Mike Davis against Baron von Rattus and Mitch Ramirez. So that's shaping up to be our unofficial Lucky Bastard Game main event. and it's a very one-sided Lucky Bastard Game main event, as I've already mentioned. And um, luckily for Foghorn Sam, he's on the heavy favourite side of that matchup with Mike Davis, who's uh, yeah, minus 500, no, minus 900 even. Looking to bounce back, and the UFC seem to have obliged and given him Mitch Ramirez as he doesn't even have a win in the UFC, and like as I've said a couple of times before, he just doesn't look like he's ready for the UFC yet. Maybe I'm sure he will be at some point in his career. He just needs to spend a little bit longer gaining experience on the regional circuit before maybe having another crack at the UFC in a few years' time. But Falcon Sam, anyway, who should be very happy with that, joins C. Collins 44 in what should be a very, well, let's be honest, it should be easy. He should be getting through with Mike Davis. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Of course, Baron von Ratter should be hoping that's the case. Okay, so it's your boy SB. Let's see what the wheels got in store for it's your boy. Oh, and sort of balancing out that main event, Lucky Bastard Game main event, with Mitch Ramirez. So at least Baron von Rattus dies in company, I suppose. Same cuts both ways, doesn't it? For it's your boy SB. But there's no denying he's been thrown onto the shit end of that fight. Let's be honest. Not really a lot I can say. I think this has been our full time addressing what is a very one-sided fight. Um, so all I can talk about is just the implications for this game and two through, two out by the sounds of it. But it's 2v2 in that early prelim fight. And let's be honest, I'm just trying to think. Is there any way I can make it sound competitive? But there isn't. I'm not even going to try and waste my breath trying to make that sound competitive. It's two people almost certain to go through versus two people almost certain to go out. Don't want to be too disparaging of Mick Ramirez, but I just don't see how he wins this fight. Okay, so move on to CN6. Let's see if the wheel's going to be a little bit kinder to CN6. He'll be hoping so. And he gets Max Griffin. Max Griffin there for CN6, which means he's up against Chris Curtis and D1 D4K10. So that's another little head-to-head to keep an eye on there. As I've mentioned, it's I say one, I'm quietly confident that Chris Curtis is going to win. Um, two very experienced guys, but Chris Curtis, I'm not saying either of them are washed, so to speak, but it's definitely the well, I suppose but that term definitely applies more to Griffin than it would to Curtis. Um, so yeah, it's I'm purely basing that off their recent record. Still a close fight, but it's one that I think Chris Curtis should be a reasonable favourite to win. Um, Still fighting better fighters, still look better in those fights as well. Uh, so I think Sion 6 is on the slightly more unlucky end of that draw, but it gives us another interesting head-to-head anyway for the purposes of this game. So I suppose that's going to be the unofficial Lucky Bastard co-main event. So I think that's probably the first time in this series I've ever used that phrase, but this game gets more and more cliched with every edition. Right, so down to our last three now, and next is the matchmaker. So let's see, is the wheel's giving us a real mixed bag this time around, hasn't it? And he gets Kennedy Nshikuwuku, who I apologize for an absolute butcher that name. So we're just gonna, I always do. So I'm just gonna call him Kennedy from now on. I feel that's more appropriate as well, isn't it? It's quite a lucky name that. No, nothing bad ever happens to Kennedy's. So more appropriate just to go by his first name for that. And I've got him to win by second round knockout against Walter Walker, who's got a very fun name to pronounce himself, actually. Um, he's currently riding a two-fight knockout streak, 8-5 in the UFC. Way more experienced in the UFC than Walter Walker is. Walker is still very new to the UFC. Got off to a decent start, 2-1, but Kennedy's just had those better. Um, I say it's 30, what's that? 8-5. It's 12 fights in the UFC, and those 12 fights compared to three fights at this level, it does make a difference because I'm a firm believer on the old iron sharpens iron theory, where if you fight better people, even if you lose, even if your results don't necessarily go your way, you've become a better fighter from what you learn from those fights and the what you pick up, and there's nothing else. Just the confidence you get from fighting that higher level because there's actually got a psychological edge as well. Because he'll be thinking, right, I'm the more experienced fighter here. Um, I should be the favourite, and well, frankly, I've got him as the favourite. So, um, Kennedy to win that one by second round knockout, and yeah, the matchmaker to go through. So down to the last two now. We have our last single player in the game is Trig. So let's see who Trig's going to be matched with via the wheel. Oh, and we've got another head-to-head as Walter Walker uh, comes up and against Kennedy. So Kennedy versus Walter, um, or Trig versus the matchmaker. Obviously the other way around. Actually, it's the matchmaker with Kennedy and Trig with Walter. I suppose Walker's he's a hungry prospect. Given that he's got a point to prove, chip on his shoulder, and all the other cliches you all know and love by now. But he's yeah, I'll say it's even though there's not a huge amount of difference in terms of their overall MMA experience, because he's 13-1 compared to Kennedy's 14-5. But the difference is that early part of his career for Kennedy, a lot of that's been in the UFC. In fact, pretty much all of it has been in the UFC. Most of his fights have been in the UFC. Whereas the same can't really be said for Walker. And I'll say it's just a case of that. It's as even though I suppose Walker's got that more motivation, more of a point to prove, and a win for him in this fight would probably do more for his career than a win for Kennedy would, if that in a roundabout way, if that makes sense. Um, be a more significant win at this point in his career. But for all the motivation in the world, that's no substitute for experience, and that's what Kennedy's got in abundance compared to Walter Walker. So of this little match up between the matchmaker and Trig. I think the matchmaker and Kennedy go through compared to at the expense of rather Trig and Walter Walker. Okay, so we're down to our last, well, I'll say not last player, but last team. They're one unity. Uber Industry, our German alliance. The other alliance, Damas, went out in the last round, thanks to the efforts of Kai Kara France. So let's see if Uber Industry are a little bit luckier. I mean, technically, they already are a bit luckier. They've already gone further than the other alliance, but let's see if they're lucky enough to make it through um, another round. Anyway, let's see. What's the will have in store for our favourite German brothers? Gets Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews, therefore, Uber Industry. Um, actually, I'm not even sure if it's meant to be pronounced as Uber or not, because I mean, it's I'm just pronouncing it as Uber, as in like the taxi firm, like but it's got one of those funny little eyes dangly things above the U. So I don't know if you pronounce that as a U or not. I've no clue. But Uber has been, yeah, Uber, the taxi firm, I guess, I don't know. But anyway, um, Jake Matthews fighting Chidi Njokuani. Again, I butchered that name. So apologies to Chidi as I apologise to Kennedy earlier. And I mean, there's been a little bit of fuckery going on with Chidi's because he missed weight. Well, like anyone that watched the weigh-in saw he missed weight, or at least it was read out that he'd missed weight. Anyway, whether that was a mistake on the part of the person that read it out or not, I don't know. But I'm going to assume he read it right the first time. But then there was a tweet I saw earlier, and it's saying that the UFC are listing him as having made weight, which is completely bizarre because he only actually missed by a pound, which isn't really the end of the world. It's not really fighters miss by a pound all the time. Every week there's a fighter that misses by a pound or two. And yeah, sure, missing weight by any amount's never a good look. And Chidi has missed weight in the past, but quite a few times in the past actually. Um, it seems odd that given that reputation and given it's only, I suppose, a pound, the UFC would put out that tweet saying, "Oh, yeah, no, he's on weight." Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, politics aside, it's only a pound. I wouldn't have thought it's going to have a huge impact on the fight because it's not as if he's because when you got a pound, you're clearly trying to make the weight. You're not necessarily trying to gain too much of an unfair advantage compared to the ones which know they're going to miss by about 4 or 5 pounds and then stop cutting the weight to start rehydrating before the weigh-ins. They're the ones that would have a serious advantage by comparison. And he came in behind the towel. So I believe there's genuine effort there to try and make weight. If anything, that would be a detriment for him from draining himself. But anyway, having said that, still think he's going to win the decision against Jake Matthews. Currently riding a 3-fight win streak, so weight issues aside, he's still getting the results. Um, So if he is going to finish the fight early, it's probably going to come by way of knockout if it is, but I think a decision is more likely. Jake Matthews, on the other hand, again, also riding a little win streak of his own, 2-fight win streak. And the only real way I really see Chidi losing is if, well, because Jake Matthews is better on the ground and not impossible. He could find a submission, or in any case, he could even try and get a decision for himself just by controlling the grappling in a very is I know a lot of the casual fans would be up in arms about that as oh we fucking wrestle hugged this or wrestle fucked or whatever they call it his way to a decision, but that's a legitimate way of winning fights. Um Unless of course the new criteria that they put out for scoring damage is it's been interesting to see if that comes into play much, but see how strictly judges abide to that. I mean, most of the time judges just make shit up as they go along, so I don't think that's going to be have too much of an effect, really. The uh, enhanced criteria for the judges to go by. But anyway, got Chitty to win a decision, but a win for Jake Matthews certainly isn't impossible. So Uber Industry they're gonna need to be lucky. Well, I mean, it always helps in this game, don't it? But yeah, they definitely could have got a worse one though. Okay, so that concludes the draw for the third round of the 30th edition of Tapology Lucky Bastard Game. 11 people in it, 11 are fighters assigned to them. So there's a few little double ups and head to heads. I won't bother trying to go through matching them all up right now. It's too hot, too tired, a little too much to drink, if I'm honest. So not all right, sobered up a little bit. Anyway, but just go through them one last time. Baron von Rattus with Mitch Ramirez. Actually, am I sharing the screen even? I don't know. Did I? Yes, I did. Yeah, I am actually. I couldn't remember if I shared the screen or not. Anyway, right. Baron Van Rattus with Mitch Ramirez. C. Collins 44 with Mike Davis. Cheeseball with Calvin Cater. D1, D4, K10 with Chris Curtis. El Guapo with Stephen Thompson. Foghorn Sam with Mike Davis. It's your boy SB with Mitch Ramirez. Six with Max Griffin. The Matchmaker with Kennedy. Yeah, just Kennedy. Trig with Walter Walker. Uber Industry with Jake Matthews. So, um, that concludes the third round draw, and very mixed bag. From that one, let's be honest, there's some good ones, some completely shit no hopers, and some that yeah can kind of go either way. Kind of fights. All in all, I'd say probably about half of you are getting through, half of you are getting out. Statistically, that's how it should normally work out anyway. But I mean, this would having said that, you can't really split 11 down the middle, can you? Well, I mean, unless Super Industry get divorced or something, but that'd be against the rules. They're in this game as one now. If they want to get divorced in the future, I don't know. That's up to them. But they ride or die together, so that won't be happening in this edition anyway. Um, but yeah, no. I suppose statistically, yeah, there's going to be more going through than out or out going through, or staying in. But anyway, um, we'll see how it works out tomorrow night. I mean, it could just be a case of for all we know, every single fight involved could just have wind up being a draw or a no contest anyway, and you all go out. So that'd be interesting if it just jinxed out, wouldn't it? But anyway, good luck with your bets. Any picks, any bets you got on this card? Good luck with those as well. Good luck with your obviously for the people still in this game. Some of you are going to need it more than others, but we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But until next time, so long for now.